Korma is an Indian dish that's popular all over the world. This is a great starter dish for someone who isn't super familiar with Indian cuisine, since it's not too spicy and features a delicious, creamy sauce that is perfect over rice. This is also the first of a few different meals I'll be showing you that is great for meal prep. More on that later. Now let's get cooking, and make sure you follow these steps very closely, because if there's one thing you want to avoid, it's bad korma karma. Let's go.
We're going to get started by cutting our chicken down to bite-sized pieces. I'm using thighs here, but of course you're welcome to use pretty much whatever cut of chicken you want. I mean, if you want, you don't even need to use chicken. You could use pork or veggies like cauliflower or zucchini. It's really up to you. Just don't use beef. But for the chicken, I'm doing a very simple marinade with just yogurt, salt, and pepper. Exact ingredient amounts are listed in the video description below. Yogurt marinades make the most tender, juicy chicken you will ever have in your life. Make sure to mix very well. The small pieces have a tendency to stick together, but we want to get every nook and cranny covered with the marinade. Alternatively, you can do this in a Ziploc bag, which honestly might be a little easier. Cover and let chill in your fridge for at least an hour, up to 12. Now let's get started with the korma paste. You want to have all your ingredients prepped for this because the first few steps happen pretty quickly. So we're going to roughly chop a couple of large onions and a couple of chilies. 2 serrano peppers, like I'm using here, will give you what I think of as an American medium level of spiciness. If you want less, just use 1. If you want even less than that, use a single jalapeno, which is about 1/5 of spicy according to the Scoville scale. Don't go any less than that. You really want at least a little heat to help boost the other flavors in your dish. So set those aside, and next we can grate some garlic and ginger and get our spices together. If you can get your hands on whole spices, get some black peppercorns, a couple of cloves, a bay leaf, some green cardamom pods, and a cinnamon stick. Heads up on the cardamom pods, I was not able to locate these in the spice aisle of my grocery store. They were actually in the international section. Black cardamom seeds or pre-ground also works. Really, any of these pre-ground are okay, so don't stress too much if you can't find something. Ground spices I'm using are garam masala, paprika, coriander, and turmeric. And yes, it's turmeric. See the R there? Yeah, that's not silent.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
Now it's time to get cooking. We're going to heat up some ghee in our pot. Ghee is pretty much just clarified butter, and it's very common in Indian cooking. If you don't have any, you can either clarify your own butter or use a neutral oil. Now, like I said, this part goes fast. In goes the whole spices until the cloves pop, which in my case took about 6 seconds. Then the ground spices. Let that cook for about 30 seconds to a minute before adding your onions and peppers. If any spices are stuck to the bottom of the pot at this point, toss in some water and scrape them up so they don't burn. Add some salt to help the onions release their moisture. This is about a teaspoon. Let these go for a good 8 to 10 minutes until they're nice and soft and starting to brown a bit. Now we're going to toss in a half cup of cashews. Almonds are also traditional here if that's what you have on hand. Let those toast for 2 or 3 more minutes. At this point, I took out my cinnamon stick and bay leaf. Normally I would take out the cardamom pods too, but I couldn't find them. And that doesn't matter too much for reasons you'll see in a moment. The last thing we're going to add is a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. I know pinçage is a French technique, but we're getting multicultural and letting it brown a bit before taking this off heat and letting the mixture cool for a couple of minutes. While you're waiting, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel for more recipes and kitchen tests. Now all of this is going into a food processor, which is why I wasn't too worried about the cardamom pods. If you don't have a food processor, a blender will work here. I really like to get a nice smooth texture on my korma, so I blitzed this for a good 5 minutes. I added a couple tablespoons of water to help it smooth out a bit, but now that I'm looking at it, I wonder if I would have gotten a better texture using ice cubes, like I did with the hummus video. Anyways, I'm happy with where it's at here, so I'll set this aside for now. You don't have to do this, but I rinsed out my pot to get it ready for the chicken. I didn't add any fat to the pan before adding the chicken, since the yogurt already has that covered. Now, I know this is not the most beautiful thing you've seen in your life, but you just gotta trust me, this is going to be amazing. Now I'll add our korma paste in here and get everything nice and incorporated. To thin this out a little, I'm going to add some chicken broth. About half a cup seemed to do it, and as a final touch, I'm going to add a half cup of coconut cream, which is going to give some richness. Heavy cream is another good option if you want something really decadent. We're going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes to let the chicken cook through and let all the flavors really mesh together. Garnish with a little bit of cilantro, serve with basmati rice and some naan, and you have one of the best dinners you can cook at home. Seriously, I love this dish, and I hope you try it out soon. If you do, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.